Welcome friends to the newest edition of Seahawkers What If, the most unique Seahawks preview show in the multiverse. And guys, I am a little sad because all good things must come to an end. I guess we could question if this was truly a good thing this entire year. However, I do know that doing this for 17 weeks with my friends who I adore, doing awesome preview shows for the Seahawkers podcast, it is our last of the season because Mighty Casey has struck out, Brandon. We will not be going to the playoffs. We do have one more game against the stupid Rams to cover. I'm still a little bit depressed that we're not making the playoffs. How are you, Brandon?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough week knowing that you are going into the final game of the season. I was kind of looking forward to it a little bit if the Rams were going to try.
Yeah.
And now it makes it a little bit tougher. But I still want to win. I still want to go out with a win because winning's better than losing most of the time.
I guess we can discuss that point for sure. Mr. Phil, haven't seen you since we turned over the calendar, so happy new year to you. It's going to be the close of one chapter for our Seahawks. We will be previewing that Rams Seahawks game. And a little birdie told me that beyond just previewing this game, I have a feeling you're also going to lay out a couple of questions that maybe have us questioning the future of our Seahawks, and not just 1 week out, but perhaps a little bit further into the future, into the definite or the indefinite multiverses of our Seahawks that could be. So first and foremost, Mr. Phil, happy new year to you. And I hope we can get ready for one last go, one more time for our Seahawks in the 2024 season.
Happy New Year, gentlemen. And yes, we are going for 10. Now, you've heard of perfect 10. This cannot be perfect 10 because it would be 10 of 17. But 10 wins does kind of sound better than 9, I think. So that's how I'm finding a way to scrape a little bit more excitement as I move toward the final game of getting to watch my favorite team play. And then we just watch NFL and whatever happens and figure out reasons to get upset at teams and cheer for teams. So yeah, Sean's doing what we thought he would do. If he's already locked in, he's just not going to play his guys. So if I'm logical, all we can do is lose. It's pretty tough to win when they don't play their best players. But I want to say, yeah, let's get 10 wins. Let's do some fun stuff. Let's show some things. That's how I'm getting excited. We definitely, the worst thing I could imagine is Macdonald playing our best players and then we don't look good. That would be atrocious, disgusting, and I can't fathom that. So let's not end up with that result.
I agree with that. That would probably be the least favorable outcome. The most positive and maybe unrealistic outcome is that we win by so many points that the Rams forfeit their opportunity to take the NFC West title, and then it passes to us and we go to the playoffs, and then we do this again next week.
Triple digits.
That.
Triple digit victory.
Yes, I like that alt universe possibility. It's like we just beat them into such submission. They go, you know what?
We can't even field a team for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
What are we going to do?
We are so down and out. Like, strength of schedule be darned. Like, Seahawks, take it away. And then we go win. Hey, why not, right? We know it can't happen, but we're into fantasy land a little bit, and that's okay. So, Mr. Phil, you did cook up a unique theme for us for this week. And before we get to it, I want to remind folks that if you are out here, if you are still here watching a preview show, first and foremost, thank you very much, because we're here with you too. We want to finish the job strong. We want to go 10-7. So we're here doing the What If preview show. And if you're out there, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast, be a huge favor to us to start the new year off in a banger. Make sure you are liking. Please subscribe. We are still charging at 5,000 subscribers. We want to hit that and go well beyond that. And there's lots of it's going to be a lot of off-season content that we're going to be cooking up on the Seahawkers Podcast Network. And one last thing before I pass it back to you, Mr. Phil, is that Brandon, you and I talked about doing a hate watch party for the Rams first game, whenever that is determined. We'll figure that out. So make sure you subscribe. You'll get it in your feed, and we will do a hate watch party together and cheer against the stupid Rams. And Mr. Phil, I hope you can make that one, buddy.
All the ways we can scrape and find purposes to be emotionally invested in these games. Like for me, the Bills need to get embarrassed. Whatever's the most embarrassing thing, they're the reason we're here right now. They only played against the other teams in the NFC West, and they mailed it against the stupid Rams. So whatever happens to the Bills, it's going to be the most painful. That's what I'm cheering for. And then, of course, obviously the Lambs losing. That's a gimme. I'll come up with some other reasons to be emotionally invested, but those two going in are pretty straightforward for me. Let's get to our theme. We have one left. There is just one more for us, no matter what, thanks to the Bills. So let's have some fun, gentlemen. One for fun. Brandon will go first. We have one love, 1, 2, 3. One last one for the road, wonderful, and one of us. Brandon, your choice. Category.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, just like Everclear, I think I want to just tell myself that everything is wonderful now.
Everything is wonderful now. Brandon, what if there is one team type thing that would be wonderful to see in this game? We all know there's certain players we'd like to see cool things, but something team, like you're saying, okay, this team is ready to give us some more positivity going in next year. And you could see it from this game. Is there something that we could take from this game, Brandon?
It's one of the reasons why I really want the Rams to lose this game. So this team type thing, you could say it's for the Seahawks, you could say it's for the Rams. The Rams are in a position to be the only playoff team that has allowed more points than they've scored. And so I would like to see the Rams finish in that position, whether it's due to us, whether it's due to them, send them into the playoffs as the only team that has given up more points than they've scored. We have the opportunity to do that this Saturday against them.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? Clinton, a team type thing that we could actually take away from this game where I imagine Sean's going to be calling vanilla plays on offense. He's not putting any of the players he wants to go without on the field. Can we take something as a team from this, Clinton?
I think so. And I hope it's not a double-edged sword, because there's a chance that if we did it so well that it could have consequences that I'm not in favor of. So let me, let me unravel that. Right. So what I will be honing in on is I really want to focus a lot on Laumea and Olu and that combination. So run blocking in general, obviously takes more than two to tango. It's a full offensive line. So our tackles are set for at least another year, another probably 2 years with the fifth year option for Cross. I'm sure that'll be picked up by beginning of next year. Just makes sense that it would be. I think we'll make a change at left guard anyway, but center and right guard is like, might they be the two dudes that get the first crack next year? And are they our starters? Are they starting caliber and like good NFL offensive linemen? I think they could be. I do wish that Olu had gotten the full year. We all got charmed by the idea of Connor Williams early, myself included, and it looked good on paper. It just didn't work out. You take some chances, you take some swings, but that'll be a lot of fun. Can we do the duo blocking? Can we do the guard tackle combos, the center tackle combos, just all the stuff that we've seen, but we've seen too infrequently, and not just volume infrequency, but also not consistently enough. Can we see that, guys? The double-edged sword I speak of is, if we show out so well, does it give Grubb some last chance power drive here? And he doesn't get the axe that I think he's actually earned. I don't want to see that, but I do want to see our center and guard continue to develop and showcase that they belong in the NFL.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If the offense
teetering
looks great,
on that thin line.
The
offense looks great. I mean, and their best players aren't really playing. I don't know that can save Grubb's job. So I don't think you have to worry about that. I do like the continuity hope there. Here we go. Wonderful is gone. Wonderful job, men. Clinton, where you want to go next?
Oh, I like this. This is always fun. Let's go to the top. Let's go with one love. Well, let's get a little Marley action going. Why not?
One love. What if Julian, not Jordan, but Julian, and friends are set for next year? Can we count on this group? Are there players you still have questions about in the DB room? We're looking at the last game. We're considering, are we good? What do you think? What do you think about our DB room? Does it need more? Can they show that they don't need more? Clinton?
It will be tough to show that they don't need more against Jimmy G and the whoever does it out there, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not going to see
O-line.
too much Puka. I'm sure we're not going to see too much Cup, if any, right? So
No
we'll have
Havenstein, no
right.
Boom.
So maybe just Jimmy G and a bunch of tight ends, so what are we really going to be seeing out there? So it'd be tough to judge further, but if I had to take the 16 game sample, right? Because we got the 17th game, week 18. If I had to take the 16 game sample so far on its face, which is what we have to look at, I'd say we're pretty darn set. And I don't think it's anything shocking to say, look, I don't know about Josh Jobe yet. And I think sometimes I've been either fooled or naive or a combination of both with people who are the other end. For the longest time, I was a Trey Brown truther. I still think Trey Brown's a good cover corner, but he hasn't had a very good last 2 years between injury and this year. Just couldn't get on the field. And when he was on the field, he wasn't particularly good.
He lost a game for us this year, so it's tough.
Well, by lining up off sides, very difficult, and it turned out to be a pretty key game. They all were, but very, very key game. Yeah. So it's difficult. So can we see Jobe just go play really sound and watch him as well, and maybe glean a bit more from his game? He's been pretty good. Of course, there's some others out there that are like, well, what are we going to do with this guy? Was he quite good enough? And I'll leave some meat on the bones for Brandon there. But my first thought goes to Jobe. He's been a nice surprise, that's for sure. It's like, wait, kind of, from nowhere, basically, and starting for the most of the year now, at least half the year. But I've seen this before. Can he do it again a second year fully? And what do the coaches think about him? I don't really have a good beat on that yet.
Yeah, there's one Julian Love, Brandon, but we do have a nice variety pack of DBs that are all playing pretty well. Kobe, and it's been a little bit of a mixed bag with 27, of course. But what do you think? Are we pretty well set, or do you want to see a big addition in the DB room, Brandon?
I think I would like to see both an addition and a subtraction, but it depends a little bit on the play that we see from Rayshon Jenkins, because with the emergence of Kobe Bryant this year, the cap hit for Rayshon, it's a little bit questionable to me, and I think that they could find a way to use that money elsewhere, and perhaps that ends up being a rookie position. We didn't see a lot of Jarek Reed this year. Is that someone who could then emerge next year in Mike Macdonald's system? So I would have to see an awful lot from Rayshon Jenkins here to close out the season to make me believe that we want to see him back in uniform again next year.
Yeah, and I wasn't thinking about third safety. It is very important in this defense to have that third safety, but we'd like it to not be so expensive. I think that, especially if we're going to be extending, Kobe and everything right now. Yeah. Good thought. So one love is gone. Brandon, you have 4 choices.
I am going to go with the Naughty by Nature classic 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Now, Clinton already jump-started us on this talk, but I think as we watch the game and as we think off-season, a lot of us are trying to 1, 2, 3.
Oh, you went with Sesame Street. I was thinking Naughty by Nature. I'm embarrassed.
Right. Yes. What if you count how many current players on the O-line you'd like to see start next year? Do you have a number you're saying we have this many starters and why, Brandon?
If I'm going to go with 3 seems like the optimal amount. Charles Cross, obviously number 1. I think Abe Lucas makes a ton of sense because we've seen him. The biggest question with him is whether or not he would be able to make it back from a pretty devastating injury. We learned from him that it's not degenerative. So I don't know if we're going into the offseason saying that we have to get a starting caliber right tackle. I wouldn't mind having a backup caliber right tackle, but Abe Lucas to me seems fine. And then that third one to me, it would be Oluwatimi, but I would really like to see us draft a center and then maybe move Olu over to that left guard spot and see how he handles there. Because it just seems like every year, first and second round, you find these starting caliber centers and you get really solid play out of them for 4 years. And you can decide to extend them or not. It might be more like how we think about running backs, though, and that they always kind of seem to be there in that range, and you get a good one. Why not maybe take that shot and let's not start 6th round centers? Although Olu is fine. I think there's potential for upgrade.
What makes you think Olu is a starting caliber left guard? Like maybe a swing backup interior lineman, but you think he's a starting caliber left guard?
I think the potential's there because we started Lake and Tomlinson all year.
I meant
so starting
NFL
caliber might be a low bar.
Not Seahawks starting caliber. I was thinking,
Okay. Well, that you can't have an entire offensive line that's awesome. It makes it really tough, and those guys are hard to find. So I'm part of it's realism, part of it's he's the guy on the team, and maybe one of those other guards works out too. But to me, based on what we've seen this year, I feel like he would be that number 3.
Maybe out of him and the other 2 young guards we have, we can get one of the positions solidified. 3/3 makes a whole. I don't know. Clinton, how many would you count? You say you'd like to see on a roster that many start. You'd feel pretty good about.
Yeah. With the great question brought to us by OPP, and thank you, Brandon, for getting that ditty in my head. It's funny. Like, I want to say the extremes. I want to say either 2 or 4, and I realize that's not the question. So if I have to take one of those positions, then I think I would actually say 2. Okay. And I realize
I'm afraid that's the right answer, but could be.
It might be. And again, this is what I'd like to see. So I'd like to see, therefore, I think we made upgrades at 3 positions. Now, Laumea might end up being a good NFL right guard or a guard in general. And Olu he's serviceable, and he deserves a lot of, if there's a resilience trophy and a dude who didn't act out and just did what he had to do as a young man and played the part. And then when he was asked to come in, played okay, played pretty good football. So, but if we could upgrade 3 positions, I would go do it. I do think that Charles Cross, I think he should have been a Pro Bowl alternative. He did not get that this year. Paris Johnson from the Cardinals was an all Pro Bowler, and Cross was not, and Cross has better numbers in general. So I think he was actually, right on the cusp of being a very good left tackle. I think Abe is quite good when healthy, and I like Brandon's idea if we need to really back that up this year and not the Stone Forsythe type backup, that's cool to explore. Because also, if you take a right tackle who can kick inside, well, then maybe voila, you got some more flexibility there. But I'm going to go with 2 and realize that, look, being 29th or 30th year over year, it's not good enough. And it's going to be the place where I think we focus the most as a fan base for sure. And there's going to be a lot of scrutiny in that position. So let's say 2.
Can we say that over the last several years as being a Hawk fan, this is the thing that has grown oldest, like year after year, going, boy, I'd love to have a middle of the road offensive line.
Yeah.
John Schneider.
What else?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what else would there be, right? I mean, we got rid of a franchise quarterback who I still think is going to be in the Hall of Fame, our best quarterback of all time and a Super Bowl winner. And we didn't miss a beat in the sense of we won 9 games, might win a 10th game. And that was supposed to be a teardown, like a complete, okay, we're going to actually rebuild. We didn't. And while giving credit to Schneider, he did completely overhaul the defense in 3 seasons, complete overhaul. It's been good. The O-line's the opposite.
Yeah. It seems like, John Schneider, I just found out recently, the guy that shares his name is from one of my childhood favorite shows, Dukes of Hazzard. And I feel like every year, Luke Bo and Luke Duke, and him being Bo, they're lining up to jump this crazy ditch and they're going to throw a couple ramps down there, and he thinks, we'll just grab a few O-line, toss them in there. Yeah, we got this thing. And so he's got the car, he's got all these items, but something about the interior O-line, and sometimes even the outside at times, but the interior O-line, he's just going to go for it and hope he makes the jump. It's I love the guy. I love John Schneider, both of them, by the way. But I'd like to put that behind us. I'd like him to land, to hit the landing once. Yeah.
With you, dude.
Okay, Clinton, you have 3 choices. Last one for the road, and one of us.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to just go right dead smack there in the middle for me. 1 for the road. Sounds fun.
1 for the road. Clinton, what if you explain why our team has been so great on the road this year? Can they carry it into next season? We're one of the best road teams in the National Football League. We'll be one of the worst teams ever if we get 10 wins at home with a record like that. So what makes us so good on the road, Clinton?
We played lesser opponents on the road.
That's one answer, sure. Yeah.
We had a tough schedule, and I was personally flagging it in whenever it came out, whatever that is. Like there's the draft and then the schedule comes out, right? So I think the full schedule, or maybe it's reverse of that, I forget exactly. But whatever that is, around May, you get the full schedule and you start making your fun plans for what games you're going to go to, and that's always delightful. I'm looking forward to doing that again with the Flockers this year. And the way it broke this year, seemingly, Buffalo at home, Green Bay at home, Minnesota at home, the NFC West, of course, at home. I think we just played the harder teams at home. So I don't think there's a why here. The piece, and by the way, I'm not into the place is packed with Packers fans and therefore we stink at home and okay, whatever. Like I say, when I go to the Meadowlands, it's packed with Seahawks fans and I find it delightful. So
can I pause? I went to the Monday night game against the New Orleans Saints the year we won the Super Bowl. My brother-in-law said, we're going for sure. We know this is a Super Bowl winning team. We got to go to a game. Went to the Monday night game. There was a ton of Saints fans there, and we still broke the record for sound in that game with tons of Saint fans shouting "Who dat" for the first quarter until they just sat down and laughed at their team.
So, Brandon, it's almost like if you just have Michael Bennett do a strip sack, fumble, interception for a touchdown early in the game, then all is well, and the New Orleans fans sit on their friggin' hands. Is that right, Brandon?
We just got to do that all the time. Yeah.
By the way, that was for me, like, of course, winning the Super Bowl that year and the NFC Championship game that year, to me, was the best football game I've ever seen, the 2013 NFC Championship game. With that, the regular season game, that was the most fun, pure, unadulterated fun, was hammering the Saints in that game, because that was the pinnacle of you're not even an NFL team. They were pretty good. They were okay.
Yeah.
But the level of how great we were, I think that was like the highest level of greatness display I've seen, maybe besides 43-8, perhaps.
Well, and remember too that was the team that we faced in the playoffs before the Niners, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So they were a good team.
Yes.
Is that correct? When did we play the Panthers with Cam Chancellor? I know we beat them in 2005.
That was the next season.
That's the next year.
Okay.
And we lost. Yeah.
Okay.
Then we beat the Packers. Yeah, that was the next year. The Cam game was the Cam versus Cam. Then we lost. Then we were going to lose to the Packers, and we won. And then we were going to win the Super Bowl, and we decided Brady needed another ring, so we were nice.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. Let's end this right there. So, but a good interjection for sure. So, but that's the question is, how can we carry it into next season? The piece that I was most upset about from a home standpoint, or just in general, was sometimes how we started on defense. And I think we'll make some major changes with an OC change, and I think we'll have a different offensive scheme. So I think we're gonna have like a clean slate with our offense. Maybe some players too. I'm sure some players, but I think we're going to have a whole new scheme to look at next year and talk about all off season. What we won't have is, it's the Macdonald defense now. And while it was mostly really, really good, most 3 and outs on the year and a plethora of really good defensive stats, we were soft to start games sometimes. And that also happened at home sometimes. We're down 7-0, down 10-0, down 14-0. That's got to change heading into next year. We cannot go into deficits against what are good NFL opponents.
So, Brandon, besides playing the Niners when they weren't good on the road and when they were good at home, and besides the rest of the opponents, besides the giant weirdness, is there some secret sauce to our road team this year, and or not? Is it just
You almost wonder if there is some kind of secret sauce that was developed by Carroll and Schneider during their time, because it does seem to continue.
Yeah.
And so at this point, I also wonder if there's some kind of confidence too within the franchises that we know how to do this. This is what we do. And they carry that with them. And I think that even having that little bit, you hear from Mike Macdonald and him talking about chasing edges. I think that even that little edge of having that confidence and mindset when you go on the road and you're like, this is just who we are. This is part of our identity now. I think that that can carry some weight too. And so I think they could carry that into next season.
Yeah, the players talk about it a little bit this year. I heard them. There's just something about quieting the opposing fans that's especially fun. And that's true if you remember playing sports in basketball and other things, to see the other fans just quiet down. It's
we should just be quiet at home, and then they could hear the opposing fans as loud as possible, and then they could quiet those ones, and we got to make this work somehow.
Maybe it helps our defense. Maybe Julian and EJ4 and Witherspoon, they can hear stuff when our fans aren't going crazy and ruining.
We'll start being loud on offense, and quiet on defense. It will totally be like the weirdest home field advantage in the world.
Everything is flipped. Okay, 2 choices left. Last one or one of us.
One of us. One of us.
One of us. One of us. Okay, Brandon. What if there's one thing Geno could do against LA to improve his chances to be a Seahawk going forward? You guys had a whole show about this.
Yeah.
People can re-listen. But as you've had time to marinate a little bit, is there anything that, against this opponent that he can do?
It's weird because it is kind of this conundrum. One of the things we talked about was the incentives that he has an opportunity to reach. But if he were to miss all those in the game, if he were to only get 150 yards passing, if he were to go out and be 10 of 20 in passing and miss his 69.8% accuracy marker, if he were to go out, let's see, it was yards, accuracy, and then take the loss, then he misses out on 3 incentives. And I feel like the contract piece of those escalators kicking it almost makes it more likely that it'll be a Seahawk by not having just a little bit of extra money to worry about, and how do you make that work in any kind of future contract. So that part of it's tough, but I do think that if I'm just going to boil it down to one thing, it's going out and showing a dominant performance against a Rams team that he's had relatively little success against in his career. So one thing, get the win, do it through the air, 0 interceptions. I think that improves his chances.
How about you, Clinton? Can Geno do anything to affect what will happen in the offseason for him in this matchup?
Yeah, he absolutely could. It's where Brandon's getting at it at the end there, right? So it's going to be a bit of a tail on to what Brandon's saying. So we did just do a whole episode. It was kind of a Geno stay or go. We talked for almost an hour, and the amount of comments, again, youtube.com/Seahawkers podcast, look for the thumbnail that says stay or go with Geno, and you'll see it. We have like well over 100 comments, and people's takes.
Wow.
They range from where I'm at, which is extend him and lower your salary cap hit while you go draft the next guy, right? And go figure that out, get somebody behind Geno and do the thing. All the way to like, he's got to go, like he's the reason, like that kind of all the way spectrum. And some in between, but very, very, very little in between.
And we know all those people too. Everybody knows another fan that's that way.
Yeah. So, and I think also timing matters. So we're asking that question, and or people are commenting, and the last memory is a 6-3 ball game versus the Chicago Bears, where Geno put the ball, he tried to give the ball away in the red zone again. failed to this time, but he tried to, and it was a disgusting game. It was terrible football. Our defense played good, but still terrible football. And so that's the thing is, do not let that be the last memory. So for the fan base that has become anti-Geno. Now it's not going to win everybody over, but if you could win a certain percentage back, they go, you know what? Yeah, this is at the very least, this is fine for another year or two, right? It'd be important because it's not just a Schneider decision; it's ownership decision. It's are they going to? Will the seats be filled? Will people be happy that we extend Geno if we decide to extend Geno, et cetera, et cetera? So it may not have to be a dominant performance against the Rams. It'd be nice if it was, but something where it just shows, guys, he's a very, very good NFL competent quarterback. And there are highs and lows like every other quarterback out there. However, and if we just realize we went 10-7, we missed because of a fifth tiebreaker, and there was many other chances and ways we could have made the playoffs that have nothing to do with Geno Smith. I think people could get there. And I think that matters for the organization. So, that's where I'm at, Phil. It's like that I think could matter. So just a game where people are like, you know what, Geno is actually pretty darn good. That'd be useful.
Should I stay or should I go now? Here we go.
Yeah.
Well,
100-something comments. I couldn't believe it. It's crazy.
That's amazing. Well, we can't talk about this game without this sad, possibly positive as well. I'd like to emphasize that a little bit. We're going to look at the last one, and I believe it's very likely this is the last time we get to see number 16. I was even sad thinking about that, to type that in here, but his pay this year, if we keep him, is huge. So if he really wants to stay and be the wide receiver 3 or 4 and help mentor and all, then he's not going to be able to play for what he's getting paid right now. He says he wants to keep playing. I don't want to give my opinion yet. We need to start this with Clinton. What if you talk a little bit about number 16, what he's meant? What do you hope for him in this game and in the future, Clinton?
Yeah, this is going to be fun and a bit sentimental for sure.
Yeah. He
catches a 10-year career. First of all, he's been an amazing Seahawk. He's been a darn good pitch to great NFL wide receiver, right? Some of that outkicked his own coverage in all the ways, right? Of course, he would never think that because he was a star at Kansas State and his dad was a good player too. But from where he was drafted to where he started as, basically a special teams monster to becoming a excellent NFL wide receiver and a clutch, amazing hands. He had stretches of his career where the dude just didn't drop passes. No matter the difficulty, they didn't drop things for numbers of years, right? So he became a fan favorite for a reason because he was a baller and he was the third down guy and he would catch the clutch touchdowns. And the unfortunate part about his timing is that he's in that 10-year window right after basically Super Bowl high-pitched success and then being a good NFL team that could never quite get back to the promised land in his 10 years. So that's going to, it's not like weigh anything down because I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's a very good NFL player that deserves Seattle accolades when that time comes. Yeah. And he's a Seahawks legend. And I will say one more thing. He also had the greatest catch I've ever seen live. I was there with Keith Ketover. Compliments of you, Brandon. Thank you for the tickets, and Adam. And my memories
to the turf.
Yeah, with the action greens on when they were still cool. So my memories of him are going to be that the dude is absolutely clutch. 100, like just such a clutch Seahawk that caught anything that was possibly catchable. And I'll save what I want for his future. So let Brandon chime in. I could maybe come back in with what I'd love to see happen. But I'll pass the baton first so I don't take up too much air.
Go ahead, Brandon.
A lot of things that Clinton talked about also apply to me. I mean, what he's meant to this franchise over this time, the way he goes about his business. He's one of my favorite players. You can't, you can't look at anything that he's done on the field and be like overly critical, because a lot of what he's done is allowed him to play the amount of time that he has. And for him to be just under 300 yards of all-purpose yardage behind Steve Largent all time, like that goes to all of the things that he's been able to do, whether it's in the receiving position, as a return specialist, punt returns, kick returns. Can we just find a way? Can we find a way to have him close out his time this year with 100 yards receiving, 100 yards of punt returns, and 100 yards of kick returns, and then he can pass Steve at in this game? It seems a little unrealistic, but it sounds awful fun. Regardless of what happens to him, I think he is one of those guys that we will see up in the Ring of Honor at Lumen Field for many years to come.
That's a great idea. And if he had declared this his last game, I think Steve would have come. I think Steve would have come to the game. I think I like your idea of putting him on all the kick returns, punt and kick returns.
That'd be
I
fun.
hadn't even thought about that.
Even if it's just one, even if it's one to kind of just
Okay.
tip the cap and be like, hey, he deserves a chance to go back out there. Even if he just fair catches it, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, that'd be, if it's a punt, it's an homage to an all-timer. This guy's freaking great. So I love that idea.
And a great human. He's been a great person for the franchise.
Three-time Steve Largent Award winner.
Yeah.
Speaking of Steve Largent.
Tough to beat that. Tough to beat that in any way. And yeah, there was years where there was nobody compared to his catchable ball reception percentage, some things like that, the difference making catches, the way he would just separate at the last moment on the Russ Moon balls, and the way he would come back and make the play possible when he saw Russ trying to work with the ridiculous pass rush sometimes. A lot of cool things. Yeah, a lot of cool things. You guys want to say anything about what you hope for him in this game? His future as an NFL player. Like, obviously we'd love him to have great success in his realty and all those things, but what would make you happiest regarding his future, Clinton?
Yeah, I went with the 300 all-purpose yards, but I'll let Clinton go.
Okay.
His future, if he wants to play, then I hope he gets this is like, just, I hope he gets a shot at a ring. Like if he wants to go play another a year or two, and it's not with Seattle. And by the way, I'm fine with that. Now this is not the $30 million owed, because that's not going to happen anyway. If he wants to restructure and come back at a much cheaper thing for the Seahawks, I'm open to it. At the same time, I think there's also a time and a place where you let the next wave of folks that are sitting there come up and let them have time on the field. And I actually think we might have reached that time for the Seahawks, where whoever that next wide receiver 3 is, and that's with me saying they figure it out with DK, extend DK, got JSN, and then let that wide receiver 3 start to blossom in a different way versus having Lockett back out there again at a cheaper contract. So I'm okay with that outcome. I just think it's actually probably time for that outcome. So if he ends up with the Bills or the Chiefs or the Vikings, someplace where he could go play a year and he gets a shot at a chip, I mean, I'll tell you this much: if we're not in it, but Tyler Lockett is playing for a team, I'm rooting for that team. Like, there's no way I'm not, unless it's like the Rams or the Niners, and the Cardinals are irrelevant. So
yeah, I can relate to that, because my boyhood player, my favorite players were Steve Largent and Clyde Drexler. And when Drexler went to Houston, I was able to cheer for him to finally get his championship. And it was exciting, because I was sad that the Blazers got so close and we never got it, but him getting it in Houston was exciting. I would do that. I would cheer for Lockett if he got his. It'd be tough to watch him wear another color, but like you said, as long as it's not this nasty color we're playing this week, or the horrific red and gold whiners, then I could cheer for it.
For sure.
Tyler has more sense than to go play for a division rival now. Let's give him like some real credit here.
He's also got a real estate business to operate. Who's gonna buy from the guy, right? So
I agree. That's not going to happen. All right. Well, let's get to our From the Flock. We asked for some wishes. We had a couple early ones, and that other one, I'm not sure which. See, Josh's was on December 26th at 8 a.m. So that was for the Bears game, wasn't it? So never mind on that one. But Clinton, I wanted to throw this in here. Clinton chimed in that Golden Hawk did get his wish. That is Brandon, if you're not in our Discord. So Brandon, once again, he just keeps on trucking with his winning streak. Rising Hakra threw in one, and that was the only one that I didn't ask ahead. They were just on top of it. The offense puts it all together and quits hurting themselves, and the defense shuts out the Lambs prior to going into the playoffs. Now, we still had a chance at that time, but maybe he's talking about shut down the Lambs as they go into the playoffs. We'll take it that way, Rising Hakra. We'll take it that way. Nate Shoots, wish we obliterate the Rams 36-7-ish. I'm with you, Nate. Even with their backups in, this will demoralize them going into the playoffs. Maybe it will. Josh DeHuman, the OL keeps Geno clean, gives him time. Carr, a Lockett touchdown. If this is his last game as a Seahawk, I want to see one last touchdown. I think she's right. I think that's what we all need to see. My off-season wish is that we get Lockett re-signed on a team-friendly deal. So that's one of the possible outcomes. I like him just to tie it up at 10 years. Perfect bow. Wyman says 10 years is a perfect amount as an NFL player. He's had a great career. If he comes back, I want to see him do well on a Super Bowl team. I'd like to see him here, but I do not want to see diminished Tyler Lockett over on the sidelines that gets 2 or 3 snaps a game. Like that just would be sad to me. Frost, his wish, a fun final game of the season. Yeah, why not have fun? One more for fun. He was looking ahead. You guys want to comment on any of these Flocker wishes?
It's going to be hard not to steal Carly's.
Yeah, Carr's got the right. Her heart's in it, her mind's in it, and we just got all emotional talking about Tyler Lockett. So it'll be super, super cool to see that guy in the end zone at least one more time.
That's what we all need. That's the main thing. The best thing that could happen in this game is the Lockett touchdown. Your what if Superhawk sounds like Brandon might want to steal Carly's for his last wish of the year. But what are you going to wish for, Brandon? Maybe you've been saving this.
Well, I'll leave Tyler on the board if Clinton wants to take him. Mine also has to do with redemption, and it has to do with Byron Murphy because he missed this opportunity to get his first sack of his NFL career a couple weeks ago against the Vikings. Let's see him do that against Handsome Jimmy and the stupid Rams. Byron Murphy with a sack.
I like it. I like the Murphy sack. I am absolutely shocked you didn't do a Tyler one. I cannot believe this just happened, but let's get our first round pick, a sack. We'd like to see that. Murphy sack. And Clinton, your what if Superhawk for this last game of the year.
Very good. And I'll let Carr, she can own that one. She deserves that one by herself, and knowing that she represents all of us this week, right? So that one's like a de facto extra for all of us.
Also, to chime in and interrupt you, Clinton, I feel like with 300 all-purpose yards, like he gets his touchdown in there somewhere. So some credit to me for de facto wishing the Tyler Lockett wish.
Could have just put your wish where your idea was and just give him 300 all-purpose yards, Brandon. Yeah, why not?
I could do what I want because I already have this thing locked up.
He's got the crowd.
It's kind of literally more than settled at this point.
Yeah, he literally has the crown on, right? So which I both love and hate, which is fun. So so for me, the Pro Bowl team came out today. So first team Pro Bowl and of course the alternatives. And it's awesome that Spoon makes first team, and I think very deservingly so. Without the gaudy numbers, there was still enough sense between the coaches and players because you're not going to get the huge fan vote just because the markets are what they are. But the 2/3 that are coaches and players realize that Spoon is the man, and he gets his second Pro Bowl, and that's awesome. The biggest whiff, though, and one that I just have a hard time with, is that Leo Williams is an alternate and is not the first team Pro Bowler. And you got Vita Vea, you got Jalen Carter, and who was the third?
How is Jalen Carter
the Giants defensive?
Giants, Dexter Lawrence, who's injured and yada yada yada. But you got 3 dudes. Dexter Lawrence was having an incredible year, and then got hurt. With that, nobody's having a better full year than Leo Williams. So for him to not be a first team Pro Bowler is egregious. Now what I want for this wish is he's at 9 sacks. I want Leo to go get that 10th sack at least one more, and to have one more dominant game. I don't care if it's against Jimmy G. That doesn't matter to me. Go get that 10th sack, maybe more. and go put a final stamp on what will be an all-pro season. That gets voted on differently. And between Jalen Carter, Dexter Lawrence, who's hurt, and Vita Vea, I'm sorry, I know I'm biased. Leo Williams had the best season of any of those guys. Yeah. Let's get him this wish and let's vault him to a deserved all-pro.
Yeah, and how do you vote for Pro Bowl? You go through there. Any Seahawks have a chance? Nah, they don't really deserve it. Then you go look at the stats. I imagine the fans of 31 other teams generally are like, okay, I don't see my player really deserving. I'm just going to look over here and check the stats. Or I play fantasy and I see points from this guy. I'm going to check the box. I can't believe coaches and players didn't make sure Leo started. That's garbage. So,
well, even the stats though, he has 9 sacks. Carter's got 6.5. Lawrence was having a good year. Vita Vea, I think, has 6.5, something like 6. In TFLs, he's got, I think, just as many as Jalen Carter. So he's right there, even stats wise. But to your point, dude, 2/3 are players. So and coaches. So boo on you for not making Leo Williams a first team Pro Bowler. The dude more than deserves it. So that's unexplainable. So I want him to get that stuff, have a healthy game, and end an awesome season. Best of his career, which is saying a lot.
Yeah. Well, we got to get to our score prediction, and Brandon has a better record than anybody in the entire NFC West on predicting. He has dominated this year, unlike any year we've ever had. So let's hear what's going to happen in this game, Brandon.
Yes, dominant win by the Seahawks. They get the victory. They score 40 points, and they hold the Rams to 0. And we get our first 6 in, 3 in, 3 out after this week.
Oh, I love it. 40-0. Why not? And they probably should. It's football. Things can happen. But yeah, if you're ever going to predict 40-0, this might be the one to do it. Clinton, what's your prediction for this matchup?
We win. It's somewhat closer, 24-13. Jimmy G and team still strap some drives together. Whatever, whether they're late, early, doesn't matter too much. But Seahawks win the game 24-13, and we get our 10th victory, and then we take it from there.
Okay, a lot to look forward to as we enter John Schneider season. He's jumping in the General Lee. He's ready to take us for a ride. Any other thoughts about this matchup? Besides Sean Poohair is just going to give us the most boring offense possible and let our defenders go eat.
We're going to be rooting against the Rams back-to-back weeks. Let's see them. One of the things we talked about a little bit at the beginning of who we would rather see them face in the playoffs. And the interesting thing is if it's almost if they lose, they may have a shot at facing the Detroit Lions in the first round. And to me, that's kind of one of the nightmare matchups, just because with the way that this offense has the capability to play, and with the Lions being so destroyed on defense going into the playoffs, now I think they have a chance to get a few of these guys back and healthy in time for at least the later rounds of the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to be ready to go in the first round. I would hate for our Seahawks to be the reason that they got matched up with the Lions and then get a win against the Lions, because that's just the best matchup for them. Yeah. So I'm a little bit conflicted.
I could see that. How about you, Clinton? Any other thoughts about this matchup that we didn't hit on?
No, not about this matchup. I think it's everything starts to gear up towards our off season, and Monday. Like we said, cheering. Yeah, Monday night. Well, Sunday night football to see what happens with. Or for sure,
on Monday.
Yeah, right? for Black Monday, and see what happens. See if it's quick. See if Grubb goes, or Macdonald or Schneider hit the podium and say we're bringing it back, and here's why we're bringing it back. That'll be a bit of a shock. I'm sure we'll have a lot to say if that's the case. But no, I think putting the hate where it belongs against the Rams 2 weeks in a row feels pretty good to me, guys. So let's have some fun, right? Look, football is meant to be fun, and we have one more chance to go have some fun in the Discord. So I would recommend people, if you haven't yet, get in theflock.com, become a member of the Discord, hang out with fellow flockers who just like watching Seahawks football, and really it's a good group of folks, right? So and it's been a fun year. So Phil, I don't know how you do it, dude, but 17 unique crafted themes. I enjoy every single one of them. So before we end this, I do want to say thank you for the time and effort you put in, because as far as preview shows go, it's funny. I'll say this real quick. You hear other Seahawks pundits, and some of them are our friends, and they talk about things. They're like, oh, I really love the offseason. And without naming names, I'm not picking on anybody. You probably know who I'm talking about. They're like, oh, I really love the offseason. They love the draft process and all that stuff. And I know we've talked before, and I'm like, well, I kind of like the season, right? And I've heard others say, well, in the season, you just kind of get into your rut, and you do your preview show, and you do your post game show, and yada yada yada. And in my brain, I'm sitting there going, well, yeah, but not really, because every single week, Brandon and I get to show up. We have no idea what you're going to say. No idea. We don't know what the theme's going to be. We don't know what the 6 questions are going to be about. And it's always fun. So I just want to give you a hat tip, dude. I think you do a remarkably cool job and a really creative job. And you put on what I think is the best preview show in the multiverse, my man.
And let's be real. So thank you for all that. Let's be real. I enjoy the off season, but we have to be honest. Off season is fun for the 31 fans of loser teams. The other team gets to enjoy all the spoils of, we just won the Super Bowl. The rest of us are like, how can we be like that team? So yeah. I think it's a little hypocritical to just say the off season is best. We can try to say that, and we will have a lot of exciting things to talk about. I hope if we do the live show, I'm interested in a little conversation on JJ and whether we should go after him. I think there's some neat points of just so much in the future we have to look forward to. I'm just sad we don't have playoffs to look forward to this year, but it gives us a lot to talk about. With all that, gentlemen, what if for one last time until next season, we say,
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Geno, beat the Lambs finally, please.
Go Hawks.